Nigel, the Greens.
41 candidates.
Shockingly, at least by number of candidates, the Greens are the third party in Alberta. Now, they're likely, actually, I'd say, to come in third in the popular vote because you say you prefer the Alberta Party or Wild Rose Independence Party or the Liberals or whatever it is. If there's no candidate you're running, you can't vote for them. So the Greens have the most candidates available to vote for. So I'd say bold prediction, even though the Greens don't rate any heartbeat in Alberta in the polls, they'll probably come in third in the popular vote. I guess the conventional wisdom, Nigel, is that the Greens being on the ballot will be favorable to the UCP because Green votes, I think, smart money says, would otherwise be more likely to go to the NDP.
I think the smart money is right on that one. Yeah. No, it's a party that owes a lot of its electoral success federally as well as provincially to being a place to park your vote. Can't abide these people over here. I certainly wouldn't ever want to vote for these. Green, they'll never get elected anyway. I can do my civic duty. I can put my vote there and I go home. And that's the end of the matter. Somebody else can make the decision. You know, it's, again, here's a party that wants to run on the just transition. And that's basically a way to turn good paying jobs into bad paying jobs, not a vote winner.
So, Corey, if try to put yourself in the shoes of a pretty hardcore Greenie voter in Alberta, and there are some, they exist. What do you think you'd do? I mean, you got, Rachel Notley, as hardcore she is on some of this stuff, by the standards of New Democrats nationally, a lot of national New Democrats, say West Coast New Democrats and Ontario New Democrats, consider her a sellout to big oil. I mean, that's baffling to many here in Alberta, but outside of Alberta, the fact that she doesn't believe in shutting down the industry tomorrow night, that she supported the Trans Mountain expansion. She opposed the construction of other Alberta pipelines, but there was at least one that she supported the construction of. What do you do? Do you vote Green, which is like, I'm sending a message that I'm really concerned about the environment? Or are you going to say, okay, Rachel Notley is a bit weak sauce for my Green credentials, but I mean, it's Alberta for God's sakes, and she gave us a carbon tax. What do you do?
Well, if somebody's that ideologically driven, the true, absolute, I'm
not saying somebody who's like off the, living in the woods like.
No, that's the irony of those people. They're usually living in Kensington in a nice house that they inherited, but they still somehow feel we could shut down the oil field and close those things in. I think they would park their vote with the Greens, just on principle, and rather knowing that they're not going to win, but they're registering their message and their thoughts on it. As well as Nigel said, they're a safe place just to make your mark, make your protest. So they'll grab that bit. And as you said, they got 41 candidates. So yeah, they'll probably check off that rank third. Who knows? That might give them the shell to start filling that void the Liberals and the Alberta Party just can't seem to find out there. Maybe the Greens will carve a little corner, but it'll always be a little one.
I can think of a lot of places where the NDP is the default choice. And I can think of a lot of places where the UCP is the default choice. I can't think of a single place where I say, the Greens, that just fits that community.
Outside of Salt Spring Island. Yeah, there's nothing here in Alberta.
Right. Okay, well, the next four parties we're going to deal with kind of together. It's the constellation of call it the dissident right. And, some of us got a soft spot for it, but I think it's not too controversial to say it's not their time. So in here, we've got four parties. We've got the Wild Rose Independence Party. And boy, that has busted from, say, a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, the Wild Rose Independence Party was running about 15% in the polls, with Jason Kenney still as UCP leader. With his resignation and Danielle Smith coming in, that support evaporated. The party had massive internal turmoil, as small parties full of very individualist people tend to do. They kicked out their leader, Paul Hinman. And then I think post-Sovereignty Act, I think speaking to a lot of their own senior activists, they more or less said, that's not our time. Let's see how Danielle Smith does, if she can win the election and if she follows through on some of the Sovereignty Act stuff. So they're more or less sitting out the election. Two candidates. And I think they're running in areas where they're intentionally could have no risk of siphoning votes that could elect the NDP. But Paul Hinman, he's well, as I mentioned, he was kicked out. Now, he was the first leader of the original Wildrose Party, who was succeeded by Danielle Smith going to the 2012 election. But he, after being kicked out of the Wildrose Independence Party, started the Wildrose Loyalty Coalition. No, that is not a points rewards card for when you buy something at Walmart. That is the name of his new political party. I think he promised to run 50-odd candidates or so. He's running 16, I think, that are getting on the ballot. There's the Independence Party. It's changed its name a bunch of times, variations of the same thing. It's now TIP. I call it it's just a TIP. So TIP, the Independence Party. And they put the in front of their name, I think, to distinguish that they are the Independence Party, not these Wildrose Independence Party interlopers. Last time, they ran nearly 60-odd candidates.
Put a bunch of them out.
Yeah, after the Alberta Party, they by far ran the most number of candidates. But it was a pretty hodgepodge thing. It very quickly blew apart. I think they've had something between 4 and 6 leaders since the last election. It's been quite something. They're running just 14 candidates. And they're an interesting bunch. They believe in independence, but they've been very hardcore that they are the sole legitimate voice of sovereignty and everyone else is an interloper and should join them.
Mm-hmm.
Their most recent leader was Arthur Pawlowski. He was kicked out as leader by that party for, I don't know, depends.
Being Arthur Pawlowski.
Just depends who you believe. And he is channeling his inner Polish anti-communist by founding the Solidarity Movement of Alberta. And they are running 38 candidates.